On three. Uno, dos, three. Happy Friday! Welcome back to another Zip Productions video. My name is TJ Ferralis, and let's talk. I'm sure many of you who drive have fond memories of your first car. I have some pretty fond memories as well, and I remember my first car as being so awesome, so comfortable, and just convenient for me to go any place at any time, and I didn't have to ask my parents to pick me up when everything was over, but there are a couple problems with this car. That's right, you saw the title, you saw the thumbnail. It's story time. So as I was saying, yeah, my first car was pretty old when I first got it. It was a hand-me-down from my mom and my dad. My mom actually originally got the car used, which didn't help. It had a lot of miles when I first got it, and I actually had it for a really long time before it started to give out on me. And it was like a tank. I wasn't worried if it was going to get scratched up or dinged up. Not like I got in many accidents. Okay, I got in one accident, but that's not what this story's about. Yeah, it was my fault, but we'll leave that story for another time. But before I get into the details of my crazy car, I need to buy some running shoes. So yeah, we're gonna go back to that place that I really like. I haven't bought running shoes in forever. What I mean by that is I don't think I've ever bought running shoes. I bought basketball shoes and I would use those as running shoes, and that's a terrible idea. So when I was a kid, my dad worked pretty far from the house. I'd say like an hour and a half away. My dad had a really old white Honda, and then my mom had an old school brown Mitsubishi. These cars, they were really old. They got to the point of pretty much breaking down, so when my mom's car started to act up, she bought a 1999 Buick Century. And this Buick Century she bought used, had some mileage on it, but nothing too crazy, and she used that car for a while. And then a couple years later, they decide that they need an SUV. My dad's beater Honda, which I can't believe lasted that long, he inherited my mom's Buick Century. By then, had some mileage on it, and again, my dad drives about an hour out from the house. A couple years later down the road, when it's my turn to drive in high school, I was 15 and a half. Guess who inherited that Buick 1999 Century? I love that car. I have fond memories of that car. Now this is an old car, obviously, 1999. By then it has rotated who knows how many users because my mom bought it used, passed it on to my dad, and then now I'm inheriting this car. The seats were perfect. This seat was so comfortable. It's like a furry, cushiony, sofa-y seat. It was awesome. There are a couple problems with the car though. Obviously, this wouldn't be a story if I talked about all the good stuff now. The car treated me well. It was old school. I had to buy one of those cassette tapes that have the auxiliary cord sticking out of it so I could play my iPod, because I was a cool kid. I had an iPod. Play my Japanese music because I thought I was so cool. I didn't like English music. I only listened to Japanese music. I was really into anime at the time. And then years go by. As you know, I go to college, still have this car. If you could imagine the mileage on this car. Not only am I driving about an hour away to school, I also have a job that requires me to travel. The knife job, you know, you have appointments all over the place. So I'm driving a lot. It really messed this car up. I think this car, when it was done, it was right around 275,000 miles or something. It was a lot of miles. The first thing that really was concerning was the dashboard would blink all these crazy lights. It would flash the power steering, say change the coolant. It would say oil change. It would say tire low pressure. It would say basically every light on the dashboard possible was on. And then we would take it to the shop, they would fix it, and then only a couple lights would come on. So we would take it to the shop continuously, trying to get these lights to turn off, and then eventually we just started ignoring the lights. No matter where we took it, the lights would go off, and then the day after I would have a light come on again. We just ended up ignoring it. Oh, whatever, you can't fix it. The next thing that gave out, this was later on in college, the right rear window, it just fell. It would not stay up. So what me and my dad did, we just duct taped it shut. And then eventually all the windows gave out. And then if you would try to operate the windows, then they would just make this weird sound and not go anywhere. And then eventually I encountered a problem with there being a puddle on the passenger floor. There was a lot of rain at the time, mind you. It's kind of a low car, so during that rainy time, there would be a puddle that showed up on the passenger side. It's not like a little bit of water, it was damp. No, it was an actual puddle. There were so many problems with the car. Me and my dad were just kind of like, there was a leak from the rain and it shot up from under the car. I don't know. We don't know anything about cars, right? So we're just trying to make up, you know, things that it could be. Clean it up. It happens again. We take it into a shop and the dude says it's a leak from underneath the car. We just gotta patch it up and you'll be all set. So we patch it up. A week later, it it returns. And it's not raining now. And we're thinking, what is going on with this car? It's a continuous problem. So we take it to the shop. I explained this puddle, and he said, you know what? I think it's your coolant. I think your coolant is leaking, and it's getting into that's where it is. It's in the passenger side. I thought, that's weird. I don't know anything about cars, so I just said, okay, you know more than I do. You're probably right. So I gotta go get it fixed. And they finally fixed the problem. Thank God. I could finally drive without worrying about, water in my car and my dashboard. We'll just ignore the dashboard because it's like the boy who cried wolf. You've been saying that nothing bad has ever happened. Just ignore you. One day, I believe it was me going to pick up my sister from school. I was on the way, and about midway through the commute, I make a right turn into this street. And this street is kind of a hill, and it's one of those streets that it dips low and then dips back up. It's kind of like one of those things. I don't know how to describe it. I make the turn, and I feel the steering wheel kind of shake a little bit, like a little bit of a rattle, and I hear this sound. It's like, what was that? I must have ran over something. Because if you're driving and you run over something, you kind of feel that. Thought, okay, whatever, just ignore that. And then all of a sudden, my steering wheel kind of goes stiff. It's kind of hard to move. What is going on? Now I'm panicking, so I turn on my emergency lights. I'm gonna go pull over. Right when I hit the brake, I realize the brake is just as stiff as the steering wheel. This is no good, okay? And by the way, I'm going downhill. I can't control the steering wheel, and the brake feels like I'm hitting a wall, thinking, oh shoot, okay, this is bad. Luckily, there's no one behind me, so I can't control my car. I'm trying to brake, I'm going downhill, so I pull the emergency brake, and that starts to slow the car down a little bit. And then as I go down, I am kicking the brake right now. I am slamming the brake, slamming the brake. It starts to slow the car down, and the whole time you just hear this grinding noise, like ging, 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 ging. The whole car is rattling, the steering wheel is rattling. I can't control the steering wheel. I'm like desperately pulling on the emergency brake as hard as I can, putting my whole weight on my foot so I can get this car to stop while I'm going downhill and can't control the car. I'm able to pull the car over. I am steering with all my might, and I just stop on the side. And I'm still holding the brake because it's still a little bit downhill, and I call my mom. I can't control the car, the steering wheel is not moving. I'm slamming on the brakes and holding the emergency brake as I talk to you right now. What do I do? And she said, oh my God, okay, you need to call AAA right now. I can't do anything right now. My left hand is holding the steering wheel towards the edge. My right hand is on the emergency brake, and both my feet are on this brake right now. Can you call them? She said, okay, I'll call them. And then I'm waiting there for about, they got there pretty fast actually. I waited there for about 5 minutes or something. That's when they hooked the car up to the truck. They said you could let go of the brake, and I was so fatigued. I'm sweating because it was hot outside, pretty much doing deadlifts, and my sister's probably at school thinking, what is taking my brother so long to pick me up? So yeah, almost died. Take the car to the shop. They explain that there's a lot of things wrong with the car. It's not just the transmission, it's pretty much everything. So maybe every single light did need to be on, right? It costed too much money to get it repaired, and that's when my parents said, I think it's time to buy a car. And we narrowed it down to a couple cars. My parents said, okay, which one do you like better? I ended up going with this car, and this is the car that I drive. I like this car. It hasn't tried to kill me yet. But yeah, that's the story of how my car almost killed me. I'm gonna get off here and I'm gonna buy some running shoes. I'll be right back. So it took me 25 minutes to find where I parked. I totally forgot where I parked. You know when you're looking or trying to backtrack to a place and you start thinking, oh yeah, that place looks familiar. Oh, it's totally in this area because, no, I remember this place. I remember, this looks familiar. I remember passing by this place, and then turns out you're totally wrong. You're totally making it up in your head. That's basically what happened for about 10 minutes, and then I finally found my car. So, got the shoes. On the drive back, I was just reminiscing about the time I first got my car, and it was just so awesome at the time because, you know, you can go any place at any time. You don't have to ask for your parents to pick you up. And when I was 15 and a half, I was just so happy to have a car. I was so lucky. You know, kids in high school, some of them walked to school, some of them, their parents couldn't afford to get them a car. And here I was driving, I was able to go places, I was able to hang out with friends. Yeah, I guess I really took that for granted at the time, especially when I got my new car, because when I got my new car, it had awesome speakers, You know, the windows worked. It was fairly sporty looking. It was cool looking. It had an alarm because the Buick, the alarm stopped working, so I had to use the manual key to open and lock my car. Yeah, I guess I really took that for granted. Back in the day when I was in high school, I was just happy to have a car. I was just happy to get from point A to point B, and if my friends called me and said, hey, you wanted to hang out, I was just glad to be able to go. That was a big thing for me as a kid. I was always worried about my parents changing their mind at the last second. So if I asked if I could go to a place where they could take me, I would always be on my best behavior because I didn't want them to change their mind. There were a couple times where I would be getting ready to go to a friend's house or go someplace, and my parents would say, oh, never mind, I'm too tired. And that was devastating because, you know, you were anticipating having a great time with friends, and then all of a sudden your parents say, no, and that really sucks. Anyway, if there was any lesson to get from any of this, is just don't procrastinate on your vehicle. If your car's dashboard is blinking all the colors of the rainbow, it's telling you every single thing in your car is going wrong, you should probably go get that checked. And if it does not stop after a while, don't be surprised if your car tries to kill you. That's pretty much it for me. Today is the 17th of June. You'll see me again on the 24th with another video out. And for those of you who have not yet subscribed, you can subscribe up here. Those of you who have subscribed, thank you so much, by the way. It helps me hit my goal. And for those of you who are new, my goal is to hit 100 subscribers, so every single person counts, and it's free, doesn't cost anything, and you can make my day. If you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up, and it helps me out. Those of you who are on social media, then you can help me out by sharing this on your favorite social media site if you'd like. And if you know a friend who might like this video, then why don't you share it with them? Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Yeah, it is easier said than done. It is easier to say, I would like to run a marathon, and then totally not run a marathon. The reason why you will never run a marathon is because you default to phrases like easier said than done.